Hi, this is Ron Marz, writer of Green Lantern, Silver Surfer, Diablo video games, and a bunch of other stuff. This is Splash Pages.
Excelsior!
Hey everybody, we're at Terrificon. I'm Drew at Splash Pages, and we got a absolutely legendary writer here, Mr. Ron Marz. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning, Drew. How are you?
Everyone is so polite, and as a New Yorker, I don't know how to interpret it, but I'm going to roll with it because I think rolling with it is good. Wouldn't you say so?
Hey, go fuck yourself, Drew.
There you go. That's what I'm used to. Good morning.
As a fellow New Yorker, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Wonderful. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about is DC versus Marvel. I've hands down considered it my all-time favorite crossover, and I was doing some research on it, and I didn't know it was the brainchild of you, Peter David, and I believe it was the late, great Mark Grunewald. They're all sitting down there talking. You guys come up with, the versus battles, like the core thing, like that. But what I was really interested in is that you said in an interview, you kind of wish it was 500 pages because there were stories you wanted to tell, but you wouldn't have the space to. Like, what stories were you kind of thinking of telling?
All of them. I mean, the stuff that we had to cover in a panel or a page could have been their own one-shots or miniseries or anything like that. But it was ultimately the job was to get it done in about 120 pages or whatever we had. So everything, we wanted to get as much stuff as possible in there. So a lot of stuff got, one panel or a page. We were just working within the space that we had. And it was me, Peter David, Mark Grunewald, and Mike Carlin at Mark Grunewald's apartment in Manhattan because they didn't want us meeting in the offices. They didn't want anybody to see Marvel guys and DC guys in the same space and start to speculate what we were doing. So most of it happened in a couple of hours in Mark's apartment and coming up with who was going to fight who and what kind of, what kind of battles we were going to have. And then Mark and Mike dropped the bombshell on us that, between the third and fourth issues, we're going to put the universes together and, make a bunch of new characters. So that was the amalgam stuff, which was mind-boggling, which was like, we're actually going to get to do this?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I remember reading it, and I saw those one panels. I was like, Batman versus Venom. I saw my favorite Starman, Jack Knight, meeting Doctor Strange. I was like, this was amazing. But, you also segued into the thing that I truly wished there was more of was the amalgam universe. I mean, the one-shots, the crossovers were stupendous. And, you guys were throwing all the ideas, but you jumped at Doctor Strange Fate, which, is one of the, I think, gems of it. So what was that like, kind of combining Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate into the one character who he knows the truth of the amalgam universe, and he's ready to kill somebody for it, to protect it. So,
yeah, obviously two of my favorite characters. I love both of those characters. And when that was on the list, because they handed us a list of these are the amalgam books that we're doing. And we went down the list, and I went, I'm going to write that one, or I'm walking out of here right now.
Right.
Which obviously was a lie because I wasn't walking out of there right now. But they said, yeah, you can do that one. So the fact that I was writing Marvel versus DC, the main story, meant that we could thread more of that main story through the Doctor Strange Fate book and have it be sort of more integral to how the whole thing was going to work. So that's how that all shook out. And, within a week or so, I found out that Garcia Lopez and Kevin Nolan were going to be the art team, which is mind-boggling. Gave me stage fright to write for Garcia Lopez. The only time I've ever had stage fright writing for an artist in my life in this business. Yeah. It took me 3 weeks or a month to come up with what I thought was a worthy plot for Garcia Lopez, and it was frankly, it was 3 weeks of being nervous about it, and then it was 2 days of realizing, I can write anything and it's going to look awesome. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So then I just, banged out the issue, and still one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Having it autographed by you and Garcia Lopez and Kevin Nolan, I agree. It's a gem. So the one other thing is, in my research, I was learning that when you were starting Green Lantern, which was around, I believe, Emerald Twilight, right? Issue 48, 49, 50, you were on such an extreme deadline that you wrote half an issue while you were at a Peter Gabriel concert, if I'm correct?
That is a true story. So we had to, they decided late in the game that we were going to what Emerald Twilight was going to come around. Was where they were going to scrap what had originally been planned. The old team was ushered off, and they brought in myself and Darryl Banks. So because we were late, books had already been solicited. I had to write all 3 issues at once because all 3 issues were going to have different creative teams, different artistic teams. So Bill Willingham on 48, Fred Haynes on 49, and Darryl on 50. So I had to write the first chunk of each issue so that all of those artists could get moving. Nobody should be sitting on their hands.
Right.
So I wrote the first half dozen pages of each issue, and then had to go back and work on completing them while the artist already started the first half dozen or so. So I wrote part of an issue at a Peter Gabriel WOMAD concert up in the balcony of a amphitheater because there were the time between sets. I had a notebook with me, so I was writing stuff down. I wrote some on a train. I wrote some, sitting in a park in my hometown. It was just like we had to get them done as quickly as humanly possible to get all the artists working. So, I think it's the only time I've ever worked at a Peter Gabriel concert.
I just kind of imagine like your eyes while you're writing some like space romance, and I was like, that just syncs up so well. So the last question I had was that in the interview that I read, you talked about how you kind of like thoughts on the career. Kyle had kind of grown up and he's kind of gone on, but you kind of wish that in one case Hal Jordan had remained Parallax, that he hadn't kind of gone the way you liked him as that he's the former Green Lantern, Parallax, now he's the villain, and sometimes he came in conflict, sometimes he helped Kyle time travel. And then you also talked about things you wish you had done with Kyle during your run. So I just kind of wanted your thoughts on those 2 separate questions.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I'm very satisfied with what we did. I don't think there's any sense in looking back and feeling like, oh, if only. Like, I was on the book for 7 years, and I told a lot of the stories I wanted to tell. Didn't get to tell all of them because I went to CrossGen,
right?
And that was an exclusive contract, so I had to give up Green Lantern with issue 125. So I did like Hal as a villain, or maybe not a villain, but an antagonist. I always likened him to Magneto, who's is a great antagonist for the X-Men,
right.
Because he is convinced that he's right.
Right.
And in some ways, he is. And I wanted that dynamic for Hal, is that, at least a portion of the audience should feel like, oh yeah, he's actually right. He's
right.
He might be doing the wrong things, but he's doing them for what he believes are the right reasons. Right. So for a while there, Parallax was very much a sort of cosmic level antagonist,
right.
which DC didn't have a lot of at that point, other than Darkseid.
Right.
So they always trotted out Darkseid. So it was a cool concept and cool version of the character for me to play with. Look, I love Hal as Green Lantern too. He's Chuck Yeager with a power ring, which is really cool, and I think he works great as that. But we got to do our version, and stuck around for quite a while, and then he became the Spectre, and everything. Comics is about the illusion of change,
right.
not actual change. So we got to do actual change for a while, which is kind of a rare gift.
I absolutely agree, because everything that was comes again. So
it's like the weather. If you don't like what's going on right now, just wait a while; it'll change.
Agreed. Well, everybody stay tuned for Terrificon. There's a lot of change coming, as in more interviews. And as always, remember, if you think it, you could have a ring to use it. Thank you very much.